the dystopia is, like any new technology or tool that we integrate into our lives, it can be it can be misused or have unintentional effects that we don't anticipate. And one thing that strikes me is that a lot of the ways that robots, also AI systems, currently learn or currently display intelligent behavior is by learning off of large sets of data. And so there's certainly going to be a trend to collect more data, which can be a good or a bad thing. I mean, from a privacy perspective, it concerns me that so much of this technology relies on collecting personal data about us or the intimate details of our homes in order to perform their function in a way that is compelling to us. So I think that's definitely a kind of a dystopia, that we don't place enough emphasis on privacy and data security in constructing these systems. Then there's the way that these data sets can be biased, and that we can program biases into machines that just end up kind of perpetuating things that we already struggle with, like racial biases or gender biases. There are a lot of ways to to bake those into our systems without even realizing, in ways that are hard to change later on. And I see again and again that I used to think, oh well, the people developing the technology should just like create the stuff, and then we'll figure out later on how to regulate it and how to deal with it as a society. But now that I work very closely to people who are developing technology, I realize that standards get set really early on.
Hmm.
And if you don't have people thinking about, for example, data security from a very early stage in designing a robot, then you could set a standard that is very hard to change later on, that may not be ideal. And for the most part, the people I work with aren't, they want to know about this stuff, but they're not trained to think of these things. They have kind of an engineering mindset, and bring in people from the social sciences who are like, oh, what about this? Oh, have you thought about this? Is like the most incredibly helpful thing that I see, and I don't see enough of it happening, honestly.
Hmm.
So that's part of the near term dystopia that I would see in robotics.
Yeah, well, it is fascinating that the privacy concern is not something that anyone really tends to think about when thinking about the issues we've been discussing. Just imagine a robot which is something you're interacting with physically, but it's a computer, obviously, and it could have access to all of your data and just, as you said, a functionally infinite amount of data online. This is something that now knows much more about you and people like you than any human being. And that could be an incredibly compelling experience, but it could also be one where, as what we suggested early on, you could be manipulated by whatever agents or corporations have a hand in building you this thing in the first place. It's a very weird picture of bringing something into your life which inevitably you will feel in relationship to. I mean, again, once you bring AI into the picture, you may feel like you've brought the smartest, most perceptive human being you've ever met into your life. Yet you now paradoxically own it as a slave, right? It can do, boring work for you and yet knows everything about you and anticipates your needs better than you do and can remember your life and your own ideas better than you can in many cases, right? It's read all your emails, say. And yet this is the thing that receives updates from Google or whoever built it.
Yeah. And stores all your data in the cloud
Yeah.
in a potentially not secure way. And companies have every incentive to collect as much data as possible, because that will make the robot function better. And you have every incentive to give the robot data so that it remembers your preferences and whatnot. And but once that data is collected, there's a lot of other stuff that can be used for as well, and you can sell that data to others. And so So it is a little bit concerning that I think the incentives here are really misaligned in a way that would require some intervention